Today, English is one of the world's most influential languages. The British Empire became the largest empire in history. But where did it all begin? The answer lies on this mysterious island, thousands of years ago. These lands witnessed Romans, Vikings, Normans, and countless invasions. Every conquest reshaped England, and every war forged a stronger kingdom. England's rise did not happen overnight. It was the story of thousands of years of invasions, survival, and relentless struggle. In this episode, we begin long before the name England even existed. To understand the world's greatest empire, we must first uncover how this island was forged. Around 15,000 years ago, Britain was not yet an island. It was connected to Europe by a vast land known as Doggerland. The first humans crossed this land into Britain. These early communities survived through hunting and gathering. There were no cities, no kingdoms, only nature, and the struggle to survive. As the Ice Age ended, rising seas submerged Doggerland. Britain became an island, a transformation that would shape its destiny for thousands of years. Britain now stood alone, yet this isolated island would one day become one of Europe's most contested lands and, eventually, one of its greatest kingdoms. Around 4000 BC, new settlers arrived in Britain. They brought more than a new way of life. They introduced farming, livestock, and permanent settlements. During this era, one of history's greatest mysteries began to rise: Stonehenge. Even today, historians still debate how these massive stones were moved and why the monument was built. Many researchers believe Stonehenge served as an astronomical observatory, a sacred temple, or a ceremonial gathering place. Its true purpose remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Stonehenge would stand for centuries as one of Britain's greatest symbols, but a new era was approaching. With the Bronze Age came stronger societies, new technologies, and powerful tribes that would reshape the island forever. Around 800 BC, the Iron Age reached Britain. New weapons, new technologies, and Celtic tribes gradually spread across most of the island. The Celts built powerful hill forts instead of simple villages. They forged iron weapons, traded with neighboring regions, and competed constantly for power. Among the Celts, the Druids were the most respected figures. They guided religion, law, and tradition, while nature itself was considered sacred. For centuries, the Celts ruled Britain. But across the sea, a rising power had begun to look toward the island. Soon, the Roman legions would arrive on Britain's shores. In 55 BC, Julius Caesar became the first Roman commander to reach Britain's shores. Although the expedition failed to establish lasting control, Rome had discovered the island. Nearly a century later, in AD 43, Emperor Claudius launched a full-scale invasion. This time, Rome came to stay and conquer much of Britain. The Romans built roads, bridges, forts, and new cities. Londinium quickly became one of the most important centers of Roman Britain. But Britain never fully surrendered. Soon, a remarkable queen would lead one of the greatest rebellions against the Roman Empire. Her name was Boudica. In AD 60, Queen Boudica of the Iceni rose against Roman rule. Her call united tribes across Britain with a single goal: freedom. The rebellion spread rapidly. Camulodunum, Londinium, and Verulamium were consumed by fire as Rome's greatest cities in Britain fell one after another. Rome refused to retreat. In the final battle, disciplined legions defeated the Celtic armies. Boudica's rebellion ended in defeat, but her legend would live forever. The rebellion had been crushed,
Rome strengthened its grip on Britain, building roads, forts, and cities that would shape the island for centuries to come. In AD 410, the Roman Empire was under immense pressure. Its legions withdrew from Britain, ending nearly 4 centuries of Roman rule. With Rome gone, cities declined, roads fell into ruin, and central authority collapsed. Britain once again became a land ruled by local chiefs and tribal kingdoms. Soon, Angles, Saxons, and Jutes arrived from northern Europe. First invited as mercenaries, they gradually settled across much of Britain. The newcomers established their own kingdoms: Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, Kent, and others emerged, laying the foundations of what would one day become England. In the late 8th century, Britain faced a new threat. Viking warriors emerged from the northern seas, launching swift and devastating raids along the coast. In 793, the attack on Lindisfarne Monastery shocked Europe. Historians often mark this raid as the beginning of the Viking Age. The raids soon became full-scale invasions. Alfred the Great heathen army conquered one Anglo-Saxon kingdom after another, threatening the future of England itself. Just when all seemed lost, a leader rose from the kingdom of Wessex. His name was Alfred, and he would change the destiny of England forever. In 871, Alfred became King of Wessex at a time when Viking invasions threatened to destroy the kingdom. The future of England now rested on his shoulders. In 878, Alfred personally led his army at the Battle of Edington. His victory marked a decisive turning point against the Viking advance. After his victory, Alfred did more than defend his kingdom. He built fortified towns, strengthened the law, and revived education. His reforms laid the foundations of future England. Alfred never ruled all of Britain, but the foundations he laid would allow his descendants to create the first unified kingdom of England. After Alfred's death, his son Edward the Elder continued his father's mission, steadily reclaiming territories controlled by the Vikings. Edward was not alone. Kay's sister Thelfeld ruled Mercia with remarkable skill and won decisive victories against the Vikings, Kay becoming one of the most influential women of the Middle Ages. In 924, Athelstan ascended the throne. Within a few years, he united nearly all of England under a single crown for the first time in history. After centuries of invasions and conflict, England had finally become one kingdom, but peace would not last. New Viking armies were gathering in the north, and an even greater storm was approaching. In the early 11th century, King Canute the Great conquered England, uniting the Anglo-Saxon and Viking worlds under one crown. But this union would not last. Under Edward the Confessor, England regained stability, yet one great problem remained: he had no heir to inherit the throne. As Edward's life drew to an end, several powerful rulers claimed the English throne. The eyes of Europe turned toward England. As the year 1066 approached, England stood on the brink of the greatest succession crisis in its history. Soon, Duke William of Normandy would change the fate of the island forever. After centuries of invasions, wars, and division, England finally emerged as a single united kingdom. Alfred's courage, Edward's determination, Stelflud's leadership, and Athelstan's unity shaped the future of England. But peace would not last. Across the sea, a new army was gathering. The coming storm would change England forever. In the next episode, history's most famous conquest begins. The year 1066 would forever change not only England, but the course of European history. To understand the future, we must first understand the past. Subscribe to Chronology of Existence and continue exploring world history in chronological order.